welcome to Day 5 of our virtual state conference. Today is Future Friday. My name is Connor Harchie, and I have the privilege to serve you as the WASC Social Media Coordinator. During this week of our virtual state conference, I've been given the opportunity to provide you with the most amazing content through our social media and YouTube each and every day. It has been an honor to serve the student leaders of Wisconsin and to provide you with an unforgettable virtual state conference. I'm so grateful for my position at the WAC and so incredibly proud of my colleagues. In January of 2018, I was appointed as the first student to serve on the Wisconsin Department of Justice Office of School Safety Advisory Committee. It has been a distinguished honor to represent the WAC at the state government level. I have been fortunate enough to collaborate with leaders from all over our great state about so many amazing topics, but especially school safety and mental health. Because of our collaboration with state leaders, we were able to reach out to Governor Evers with some questions we had. Governor Evers was just as thrilled as we were to respond to the questions. We had students from all over our state submit questions for our governor. His team produced a video answering all of our questions. Governor Evers is one of the only two governors in our country to answer and respond to their student leaders in their states. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Wisconsin's governor, Governor Tony Evers.
Hi, Wisconsin. Governor Tony Evers here. I am so happy I am able to join you today for your virtual conference. I hope you all are doing well and hanging in there as we navigate this challenging and unprecedented time. I want to thank all of you for the good work you are doing for our kids, our schools, and our state. I got a few questions here that you all would like me to answer. So let's get started. What leadership skills do you think have been most valuable during this difficult time? I've always believed that leadership is all about building relations and developing positive relations. We have lots of different viewpoints around this pandemic, and lots of different solutions that are given and brought forward every single day. I think leadership is always all about building those relationships, and I believe that has been part of the foundation of what I've been trying to do over this past several weeks. What aspect of your job has changed the most in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic? Just like everybody else, the issue of being safe at home is critically important. And for me, safe at home means being either at home or in my office here at the Capitol. The most important part of my job before this pandemic was getting out and listening to the people all across the state. That's been obviously contracted to the point where I'm making these comments virtually rather than in person. But that's been the most important or most difficult thing for me to adjust to. I'm getting used to it, but I can't wait till the pandemic is over. Next question. How do you anticipate the effects of this pandemic influencing incoming first-year college students in terms of curriculum requirements, financial relief, mental health, and so on? And how does the state plan to support each university's plan of action? Clearly, it's going to be difficult for all, whether they're incoming freshmen or others in higher education. It's been different at the end of the school year. It's going to be complex again next year. We have to be, the encouraging thing that I always encourage is for people and organizations to be flexible. The virus in and of itself is hard to predict, and we're doing everything we can to box it in across the state of Wisconsin, but we will continue to support the University of Wisconsin system in every way possible. A lot of that financial support will be coming from the federal government. It has been and will continue, but that doesn't answer the entire question. So we'll be hopefully looking to the legislature for some solutions there, and it's just really important for people to be flexible in their outlook, and things will turn out just very, very well. How does this pandemic shape the future of our schools? Well, certainly it has already. People have gotten used to the issue of, virtual learning and things happening not in the classroom, not in the counselor's office, but frankly at home and via virtual learning. Not that I think that is the answer, but what it has shown me is that how resourceful people can be in the learning experience, and we'll need to have that resourcefulness going forward also. I know it's been critically important for students and teachers to connect with each other. I think those relationships, as I mentioned before about leadership, it's important in leadership. It's important in as adults leaning in on our kids' work at home. I think is critically important. It also helps us stay connected in a way so that those social and emotional skills that are so necessary to learn are kept going in even a virtual way. What is the state government doing to support our rural communities? Certainly, we have had many opportunities and good opportunities to support the small businesses in rural Wisconsin. We've had both federal money flowing into rural Wisconsin and around these issues, but also our state government is doing well. Rural Wisconsin is struggling. A lot of it's based on tourism and agriculture industry, two areas that are slower to recover in this pandemic. And so we want to make sure that we do everything we can to support those two industries. Do you feel confident that schools will return in the fall? Yes, I do feel confident, but we have to be prepared. We have to be flexible and make sure that the issue of this virus is taken care of. And that's why we continue to talk about it this time. We're making sure that we're testing as many people as possible, that we have the tracing support necessary is in place, along with the equipment that we need in order to do those three things. Once we get to a point where we're moving away from, boxing in the entire state, but boxing in individuals, then we can feel confident that the school system will start, the schools in Wisconsin will start at the appropriate time. But we have to be flexible and be prepared. In order to be successful in tackling COVID-19 and getting back to work and back to school, we are all going to have to hunker down and work together. I want to thank all of you again for your support in doing that. And thank you for having me here for this event, and also have a great virtual conference.
Thank you so much, Governor Evers, for your time and willingness to respond to our questions. It is greatly appreciated. Next up, we have Maddie and Aaron chatting with you about what to expect after high school and the college lifestyle. Maddie and Aaron have been active in the WAC, serving on the governing board for the last few years. They have been servant leaders to the WAC, and they sure are great people. I'd like to give it away to Maddie and Aaron.
Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Madison, and I'm currently a freshman at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
And I'm Erin. I'm currently a senior at Adams Friendship High School, and I'll be attending Madison as a freshman in the fall. Today, we're going to just be talking about some leadership transitions. Whether you're moving from middle school to high school or from high school to college, transition periods are always tricky to navigate.
Okay, so Erin and I have a lot of different things to talk about, so we're kind of going to be opening them up as topics of conversation. Originally, we kind of planned to go live, but that didn't go as awesome as we wanted the first couple of days. So just a note on any of these, if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact either of us. But one of the first things I want to talk to you guys about was the best piece of advice that someone ever gave me when I was going to college is that sometimes it feels like you're sprinting to stay in the same spot. And I know that sounds so tricky and like so intimidating, but on the flip side of it, what you have to think about is if it feels like you're sprinting to stay in the same spot, you're likely making progress. Like, it's so valid to have those emotions that you aren't moving forward, but especially as you're moving on to somewhere where it feels like there are people who are maybe more educated than you, have been in leadership, been in student council longer than you, you're not sprinting to stay in the same spot. You're sprinting to move ahead, and maybe you just don't see the progress yet.
Yeah, it's definitely all about long-term stuff. And I think that even in high school too, sometimes it can tend to feel like you're just working and not really getting anywhere. But as you come to your point in like your senior year, you kind of start to realize that all of that staying in the same spot was definitely worth it because it accumulates over time. So I think sometimes you have to think of long-term effects too when it comes to that feeling. But yeah, so that's something that can happen in high school and college for sure.
Yeah,
And as far as student council goes,
I was just sorry. I was just
from middle school. Yeah, no, go ahead.
okay. We're trying to navigate this on a Zoom call too. I should totally say that. Aaron and I are trying to make this conversational, so I'm sorry if it's not perfect. But I wanted to say too, sometimes your impact isn't something that's going to be seen right in the moment. Like that's another important thing to consider. Like maybe you did something big and great for your student council. Maybe you wrote a grant proposal, you applied for an award. Your council might not see the impact of that for years, but you still need to understand that you put the work into it and it's incredibly valid.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So as far as student council goes, the transition from middle school to high school isn't super different. I would say the main goal is usually the same, being a positive force of action in your school, your community, wherever you're at. So no matter if your council impacts all of the above, it's important to remember that you're making a difference in some way, and that's what student council is all about. So if we're talking about transitioning specifically into a council, whether it's some sort of council organization in college or whether it's in high school, I think you have to remember why you're there in the first place, because it can definitely be a little bit tricky. But especially for me, from middle school to high school, my council transition was really easy just because in high school they kind of focus on the same things that we did in middle school, and it's basically just being that positive impact on everybody in your school, being a good role model, and just finding ways to keep the community involved and keep bringing that impact to people. So I think that the transition for you guys listening, you just have to keep in mind that it's not always going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be worth it. But in some cases, it might be a little bit easier than you think. So don't stress about it too much, and just make the best of it.
And definitely popping off of what Aaron said too, I think sometimes schools, I know at my school we had a program or something where like freshmen in the council would go down and talk to the eighth graders about the application process, what things are like and something like that. And if your school maybe doesn't have something like that, being able to start something like that would be huge, because I mean, one of the biggest things about student council is making sure you are serving your diverse student body and being able to make sure that someone doesn't feel isolated and that transition into the council is easy is something huge that you can do as a leader. So our next thing,
and make sure
go ahead.
Make sure you find your people and you just reach out to some of the people that maybe in high school or in college. Like I know I've reached out to Maddie and I've been like, hey, what can I do at Madison? What can I do with some of this stuff? Or you can reach out to some of your high school officers, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to be like, yeah, this is what high school council is all about, just to give you a little bit better of an idea.
And I think the thing is, off of that too, is people are normally more than excited to talk about things that they're involved in or that they love. Like I'm always more than excited to talk about school. I love college. I was always more than excited to talk about student council to younger kids. Like people are normally more than welcome. You just have to be willing to make the first step and ask. So kind of jumping off of that too, our next point is don't join things just to join things. This is huge. I was definitely guilty of this in high school. I just kind of thought to myself, I'll join everything because that's what colleges want to see. Colleges want to see me in a bunch of extracurriculars. They want to see me in a bunch of sports, X, Y, and Z. But in the end, looking back, it's so much more about joining things that you're passionate about and joining things that you know that you can make an impact in and be happy with your impact in, instead of joining things just to put it on your resume. Because not only is it going to stress you out, but it's also kind of going to show colleges, wow, they were involved in a bunch of things, but they don't seem particularly passionate about one thing. And being passionate about one thing is huge when you're applying to colleges in general, because it gives you a passion, it gives you a light, it makes you different, it gives you something to write your essay about. So make sure you're joining things, whether it be in high school or college, that make you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too, to kind of go along with that, Maddie, is just, especially in high school, I would say walking into your freshman year, make sure that you give those things a try that you might be interested in, just because it's not something you're super passionate about right away. Give it a try. But if it's not something that you love or you can see yourself doing for, the next few years to come, then don't stick with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going to the advisor or anybody that's in the club or organization and just saying, hey, like, I don't really think this is for me, but I really appreciate the opportunity and the experience it taught me. and just move on, because it's all about growth for yourself too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like 99% of the time, it's about taking the leap, but also having the courage to maybe be like, this isn't for me or this is for me.
Yeah, and so with that too, our next point is that it's okay to really only get involved in one thing and then move slowly to add more to your schedule. So when you're starting in high school or in college, it's okay to just focus on one club, whether that's just student council or just basketball or just one thing. It's okay to have that priority when you're younger and you're starting out, and then you can slowly start adding more things to your schedule as you adjust. Because coming in as a freshman, whether it's in high school or college, is really overwhelming just with the classwork and maybe the new building, navigating your way around all of those sorts of things, meeting new people. So you just want to make sure that you have enough time to do the basics of being a freshman before you can get involved in tons of other things. So just take it day by day, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself too much. Give yourself a little bit of love there.
And I think hopping off of what Erin said too, in high school, I was super duper involved. I played tennis, I played soccer, I was in student council, Spanish club, NHS. I was in just about everything you could be involved in, which kind of contradicts my future point. But then I got to college first semester and I couldn't find time to join anything. And then second semester, I got involved in one org. And that's so beyond okay. Like, it's so okay to learn to like prioritize who you are and prioritize your mental health and making friends and making your own transition easier rather than joining things just to join things. And no matter what your next step is, whether it's going to college, whether it's moving into high school, whether it's going on to a master's degree or finding a job, people are going to understand that you are in a period of transition, and your future employer, future educator, whatever, is going to understand that you're making the choice that's best for you, and it's not selfish to just prioritize your education or prioritize who you are. So our next thing that we're going to talk about is that it's so okay to ask for help. You cannot, no matter where you are, what period of time you're in, you cannot do it all on your own. Reach out to those around you for collaboration. Not only is it going to take stress off your shoulders, but it's going to ultimately make everything you're doing more fun. I remember everything that I did in high school was better when I asked people to help me. You can't run homecoming on your own. You can't apply for Spirit of Excellence on your own. None of those things you can do on your own. And sometimes when you pursue a tough project with people that you really believe in around you, you're not only going to foster stronger friendships, but you're going to foster stronger councils and a stronger project. And off of that too, it's never an embarrassing thing to ask for help. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. And like, always remember that. It's always hard to ask for help, but after asking for help, you're ultimately never going to regret it.
Yeah, it's a huge sign of strength in a leader, and it's a really great quality to have. For me, it was one that I didn't really learn until later on in my high school career. And once I did learn it, it made high school so much more fun. Just because asking for help, I got to meet a lot of new people. Like when I would come forward and be like, hey, I really need help with the Spirit Week dance. Can somebody help me out? There would be kids that came forward that I didn't really know from my council that I'm really close with now, just because I got to work with them for a few weeks on a project. So definitely don't be afraid to ask for that. Or if somebody was in the same position as you, don't be afraid to ask them for help. Like I've had some regional officers come to me and say, hey, can you help me out with this? I've never done this before, just because I was a regional officer in the past. So don't be afraid to reach out to people that might have been in the same shoes as you for just some advice on how they can do it the best that they can. Because it's all about growth for your program too, I think. So that'll definitely help strengthen your group as a whole and the future of whatever club or organization you're in.
And what Erin said of like how she reached out to regional officers or they reached out to her too, sometimes it's not even about getting help about what you're doing. It's about having your emotions validated. Like sometimes you just feel so stressed, and having someone be like, yeah, this is hard, but this is why it's all worth it. This is how it's paid off for me is exactly what you need. So don't think that help is just for like the physical help. Sometimes it's for the mental help for you too. And that's a huge part of self-care.
Yeah, and I think the same thing goes for like classes too, just in general, like especially in high school, because the coursework tends to get a little bit more intense, especially with like AP or IB classes and those type of things. So I think the same thing goes there where, you know, you're sitting there and you can ask an upperclassman that may have had that class and just be like, hey, did you have a really hard time with this assignment or studying for this test? Because I'm really struggling. And they can be like, oh yeah, like, let me help you out and we can go study together. Because it is hard for everybody in general. And the chances are if you're in that position, they're probably in it too. So.
And I guess the same exact thing off of that, like going to more of the college perspective, like it's so easy to feel overwhelmed because I feel like any college you're going to go to is bigger than your high school, and being able to reach out to your professors, club leaders, TAs, anything like that, and going to office hours for asking for help, or staying after the lecture to ask for help, or staying after a meeting to ask for help is going to foster stronger relationships too. So that's a huge thing. Just remember to ask for help.
Yeah. And then another thing is don't compare yourself to the people that are around you. Everybody is participating in that balancing act of trying to do everything that they can. And everybody's balancing is different. So people are taking different classes, dealing with their own mental struggles, different things at home. Your story is not the same as anybody else's, and nobody else can write it. So that's really important to remember. Therefore, your extracurricular load and the way you handle it won't be the same way either. Nobody goes through the same path in life. So you just have to remember that your story is unique and different, and your story is beyond worth it. And it's yours to write. So you can add whatever chapter or, you know, delete some of the sentences. You can do whatever you want. It's your life. And I think it's really hard too in our generation with looking through social media. It's hard to not want to compare yourself to other people as you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. It's really easy to compare your life to somebody else's. But I think that just taking some time to reflect and remember what is special about your life and why you're unique is really important, because we all were created for different purposes. So that's really something cool about our world in general, and just all of the diversity that the world brings.
Yeah, and completely popping off of what Erin said too, like you are not here to live the same exact story as someone else. Like we're all different for a reason. So just because your best friend, someone you know, is involved in choir and basketball and student council doesn't mean that you need to be involved in choir and basketball and student council. Sometimes some of our best decisions in life just come from jumping off a limb and making that choice to pursue something that you're actually passionate in and navigating that in a different way than anyone else's. And keeping in mind with that too, maybe it's easier for someone to handle 6 activities than it is for you to handle 3. And that's okay. We all navigate things differently, and we can all take on loads differently because we've all been prepared to take on those things differently. So make sure to keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I think some of the activities we do definitely go like hand in hand too. So like some of the stuff that we do, like band and choir might go easier together just because they're more musically related. So if you're more musically inclined, that might be easier for you. But for somebody that's the total opposite, that might be not into like the music or the art side of things, you know, they're like math and science might go better together. So I think it's just like about finding your match and what is best for you and your personality type too, and recognizing all of the unique, cool things about you.
Yeah. So kind of similar to that too, the next thing we want to talk about is never be intimidated by your age or status in an organization. So you can kind of take this 2 routes, one with being your age, and this is super important to remember that just because you are a freshman in a student council does not mean that you are any less valuable or that your voice does not mean as much, because it 100% does. You're all there for the same reason. You're all selected or allowed to be on the council for a specific reason. So don't be afraid to use your voice because you're there. And then in terms of status, so many times again and again in different organizations and different things, I've seen a president do just as much as a representative on the council. Your status, your position, maybe it means something. It means that you're selected because your advisor is strong, you're a stronger leader. But just because you're not a president doesn't mean that you can't make that huge impact or serve your community and the others around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the perfect example of this is the WASC governing board. We actually have the exact same number of adult representatives as we do student representatives as far as voting members go. So I think that that's something really special to our organization and something that all of us as students and all of us as advisors, you know, to really cherish and take to heart. There's been a lot of advisors that have like come to me or other student representatives on the board and said like, when I was 16 or 17, I would have never even brought that forward to the board. And we have middle school members and high school members. So it's just really cool to see the different age levels and what they can bring forth. There's middle schoolers that I've reached out to and been like, oh my gosh, like if you're thinking at this level as a middle schooler, you are going to be unstoppable when you're an adult. So I think it's really cool to see that and just all of the different generations that are on the board. It's just fascinating to see everybody's ideas. And it's fascinating to see how age doesn't even really matter. We all feel like we're the same people working toward the same goal. So.
And with that too, what Erin had said about middle schoolers, never be afraid to say thank you or encourage someone or tell them that they're doing something right just because they're younger to you or maybe you hold a position higher than them. Because sometimes those words can mean the absolute most to people. Like hearing that you are doing amazing or you're going to make an impact from no matter who, but someone who's higher up in an organization than you might mean the world and might help you to blaze your trail a little further. So just that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing, take time for yourself. It's not healthy to go with no rest. So just making sure that you prioritize time in your schedule for that self-care me time, which is all about what earlier in the week Wellness Wednesday was about, if you guys watch those clips. Just making sure that you do what you love and do what makes you happy just as often as you need to keep yourself more stable and just overall more full of joy is super important. So whether that's going on a walk or a run, watching some YouTube videos, making some brownies and eating some sweets, like it can be anything. And don't ever feel guilty for making time for yourself because that's always super important.
Yeah, and one of the best things I've ever heard about that is that self-care isn't selfish, it's selfless. And that sometimes if you don't pick a day of the week for your body to rest, your body's going to pick it for you. So you need to remember that if you don't take time to rest, sometimes it's going to come at really inconvenient times. So make sure to take care of yourself. Make sure to remember all of these tips and remember that you are a leader and that you are always worth it. And off of this too, if you have any questions about anything Erin or I talked about today, please feel free to reach out to either of us, DM us, email us. We're more than happy to answer them. And if you have any more specific questions, whether it be about Madison, whether it be about the student council or anything like that, we're more than happy to answer them. So please feel free to reach out. Thank you guys so much for listening to us today, and have a fabulous rest of your week, and we hope you had a wonderful state conference.
A little over a week ago, it was announced that our schools would be closed for the remainder of the year. While this came as a disappointment to many, students, teachers, and parents alike, we realized the potential of opportunity during this time. The opportunity to stay connected, to spread hope, and to help others. When we saw videos from several other student leadership organizations across the country sharing this message, we knew we had to bring this back to Wisconsin. Over 50 students of the class of 2020 from high schools across Wisconsin collaborated to bring forth a special video to share with you all today. Not only is this a tribute to our graduating senior class and their legacy, but this is a message of hope, initiative, and unity. A special thank you goes out to Alex Osterman for all his help throughout this process. Here's what we have to say. Dear Wisconsin, what a time to be alive. Right now we may find ourselves in a place of all-time lows, but we can overcome this.
So that is why we are making the call to move forward, Wisconsin.
But what does that mean for us?
Moving forward means taking initiative, like our healthcare professionals.
To take the initiative to do things that we've never had the chance to do before.
Moving forward means envisioning the opportunities that lie before us.
To envision uplifting our friends and communities.
To be something bigger than ourselves.
The fact is that we're all in this together.
Whether you're worried about prom, graduation, getting your driver's license, or taking the ACT or SAT.
We're all experiencing the same doubts and fears, but we aren't alone.
Because we're together, we have the opportunity to reach out and lend a helping hand to others.
Because we're together, we have the opportunity to be resilient and be a light to those around us.
What we've achieved depends on the work we've put in every day leading up to this and long into our futures.
So don't give up, because we will never give up on you.
By taking initiative, envisioning the future, and moving forward, we will come out on top.
So Wisconsin, let's move together as one. The recession, terror, and other adversities life has continually tried to bring us down.
But we will survive. And in fact, we will thrive in 2020.
Right now, we may be bound by limitations or constraints.
But we have other ways to connect. Through social media, sending a letter, or having a late-night Zoom call.
The student leader in each one of us demands challenge, and we continue to move forward despite these circumstances.
We've spent our whole lives building relationships. Now is the time to strengthen those.
Now it's time to empower, to make a difference and make a change in your life and in others.
The time is now. What better time than 2020 to see our vision clearly and explore our opportunities as we continue to grow?
The world has gone through times of fear, terror, heartbreak, and struggle.
But no matter this, the sun continues to rise each and every day.
What we do today will influence us tomorrow.
Today is an opportunity for you to rise.
Remember the countless hours of hard work we've put into high school.
Remember the performances, the competitions, the exams, the presentations.
We didn't come this far to only come this far, so we've got to keep moving forward.
Let's keep a hold of that vision.
Looking at the past year,
take a look at all of your
accomplishments and moments that have influenced you
to become the amazing person you are today.
Keep pushing forward and find success.
Envision stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks.
We need you. Everyone needs you.
Life is hard enough to do it alone.
But we are never alone. We are united.
It is crucial for us to collaborate with one another, either virtually or from a distance.
So, let's break down the barriers established by rivalries and become one, Wisconsin.
Let's take action and believe. We have a decision to make. We can either stay down in these struggling times or continue to move forward.
In these past few weeks, we have seen a pandemic, earthquakes, and economic uncertainty.
But we have also seen relief, initiative, and determination from healthcare providers, educators, and so many more.
We are strong, Wisconsin. Let's make history.
Because as Wisconsinites, making history is what we do.
Sincerely, the class of 2020.
Wow, wasn't that an impactful video? It brought a lot of us at the WASC tears. I would like to thank Alex for creating the video and Amanda for taking the lead on contacting all of those seniors to create the video. Thank you so much. Today's daily challenge is to post what your goals are in the future. Are you attending college? Going straight to the workforce? We want to know what you have in store for your future. You can post the challenge on our Instagram or Facebook using the hashtag WASC Future Friday, and be sure to tag us at WASC Leader. You can post this either on your feed or your story, doesn't matter. No social media? No need to worry. You can still participate in our daily challenge. Just send us what you have to socialmedia@wasc.org. We can't wait to see what you have in store. I would like to thank all of our viewers today and every day for participating in our virtual state conference. Tomorrow, we have even more fun lined up, starting with our daily challenge winners announced by our competition host school, to the Seize the Day video you have all been submitting to our Chief of Staff, Dylan Emersa, and then finally, our famous WAC dance party. It's a day you don't want to miss. We can't wait to see you tomorrow, and for now, have a good night and goodbye.